Part 1. Ever have your whole life collapse in a single instant? 5 days ago, that was me, leaning against the kitchen counter as the evening sun crept across the tiles, Belle's iPad cradled in my hands. A couple of taps, and I landed on a group chat that was never meant for my eyes. Family only, it said, like a private club. Inside were Willow, my wife, her older sister, Lucy, and their mother, Aurora. I started scrolling. The conversation stretched so far back, I lost track of how many seasons had changed since it began. Line after line, they tore me down in ways I never saw coming. "He's honestly just a pushover," Willow wrote once, casual as breathing. Lucy tacked on a laughing emoji. "He won't ever stand up to any of us." Aurora, always the strategist, chimed in, "Milk him for every cent before he notices." I kept reading, the glow from the fridge the only witness as they sneered about the time I declined a big promotion, my attempt to spend more afternoons at home with Belle. They made cracks about how I'd never asked for receipts on Willow's renovations, which, apparently, were code for spa getaways, shopping trips, and maybe worst of all, secret rendezvous. But the worst wasn't the money. It was the sneering contempt. The sense that my sacrifices were punchlines in their little inside joke. Anyone else might have stormed out, called a divorce lawyer right then. Instead, my mind went razor-sharp and quiet, like the moment before lightning splits the sky. I knew I couldn't just vanish. Not now. They'd spent years believing I was harmless and easy mark. It was time to teach them what happens when you back someone like me into a corner. For as long as I could remember, I'd worn the good guy mask, patient dad, easygoing husband, the man who never made waves. But nobody, not Willow or her clan, had ever asked what would happen if I actually broke. That night, Willow drifted off, her soft breathing lost in the hush. I lay awake, staring up at the ceiling, feeling my heartbeat punch through the silence. My fist curled, tension crackling through my chest. For the first time, a heavy, unfamiliar shadow pressed down on me, smothering any trace of sleep. Even then, one thought kept me tethered. Belle. Her laugh, her small hand in mine. No matter what was coming, I'd make sure she was never used as a pawn in Willow's power games or Aurora's cold maneuvering. I would do whatever it took to keep her safe. That was my promise. And as I remembered those smug, self-congratulatory texts, my resolve hardened. They'd pay for every word. 2 days later, Belle padded into the living room as I thumbed through emails on my phone. "Daddy, why does Mom's friend come over when you're not here?" I glanced at her, fighting to keep my tone light. "Which friend do you mean, kiddo?" She looked up, brow furrowed. "The tall guy. He wears a ring just like yours and Mom's. He brings her coffee. Sometimes I hear them laughing in her room. I think she calls him Theo." The world seemed to tilt under my feet. Theo Ross, my best friend since we were 7, the one who introduced me to Willow at Lucy's birthday cookout, the guy who never missed a family barbecue. I remembered how Willow's eyes used to linger on him just a heartbeat too long, the way her posture would subtly shift when Theo entered the room. I'd always written it off. Now, every memory snapped into place with painful clarity. The moment Belle left for cartoons, I set up a tiny motion sensor camera behind a flower vase in the living room, one of those gadgets you pick up online. Willow, too used to my trust, didn't notice a thing. The next day, while I pretended to be stuck at work, my phone vibrated. On the screen, Theo's shiny pickup rolled into the driveway. He strolled in like he owned the place, flashing that signature grin. His wedding band glinted, a slap in the face, considering he'd just celebrated an anniversary with Naomi. The footage told the story. Him and Willow, arms around each other in the foyer, sunlight streaming through the window. No shame. They disappeared into my bedroom for nearly 2 hours. When Theo finally emerged, he barely bothered to fix his shirt. I didn't shout. I didn't break anything. I just stared at my phone, the room shrinking around me as something cold and venomous settled in my gut. My lawyer once called what Willow did financial abuse. Now it was infidelity, layers of betrayal, with my best friend holding the knife. Later that night, Willow's voice drifted from the next room, low and confident as she spoke to Aurora on the phone. "He'll never confront me," she scoffed. "We'll finish everything next week after his bonus hits. I'll serve him the divorce papers and take the house. What's he going to do? Cry about it?" Her arrogance was gasoline on the fire building inside me. No more quiet. No more keeping the peace. I let them keep digging the hole, counting on my patience. That would be my last gift. The next morning, I sat across from my lawyer, Miss Phillips, in her glassy office as sunlight danced across her desk. I handed over screenshots, video clips, chat logs, the whole brutal record. She went through everything, her jaw tightening by degrees. "Colton, You've got enough for a divorce and maybe criminal charges, she finally said. This isn't just ugly. It's illegal. I shook my head. Stopping them isn't enough. I want them to feel this. All of them. Even to me, my voice sounded deeper, like it belonged to someone else. Miss Phillips leaned forward, her eyes searching my face. Don't let anger ruin your case, Colton. Whatever you do, stay smart. When I stepped out of her office, the sky looked ready to crack open. I wasn't planning to break the law, but I was finished playing their fool. Whatever came next, I was going to be the one in control. And when it came to Theo, there would be nothing polite about that conversation. Aurora's big family dinner loomed on the calendar, their monthly tradition to gossip and polish their image. Everyone who mattered to their clan would be there. This time, I made sure Belle would spend the night at a friend's, far away from the fallout. I still hadn't decided exactly how I'd blow everything up, when, suddenly, the perfect chance practically landed in my lap. Part 2. Part 2. The week rolled by, each day strung tight with anticipation. Late Thursday afternoon, I ran into Grant, Lucy's husband, in the produce aisle at Haddon's grocery. He nodded, polite on the surface, but there was a flicker of something sharper behind his eyes. You heading to Aurora's dinner Saturday? He asked, almost too casual. Wouldn't miss it, I replied, forcing a small grin. I wondered how much Grant knew about Lucy's secrets. Did he suspect her role in draining my bank accounts? Or was he still living in the dark like I'd been? He held my gaze a second longer, then forced a chuckle and said, See you there, buddy. He had no clue what was waiting for all of them. Saturday night, the sky thick with summer heat, I pulled up to Aurora's sprawling house. The place tried too hard, manicured hedges, marble columns, a driveway so spotless you could eat off it. But that glossy exterior couldn't hide what simmered underneath. Secrets, manipulation, the kind of rot you can't bleach out. Lucy opened the door, beaming too bright. Colton, she chirped, voice syrupy. I'm so glad you made it. Willow's in the kitchen with Mom, getting the roast just right. Tonight's going to be wonderful. I nodded, keeping my mask in place. Looking forward to it. Inside, the kitchen was a whirl of activity. Aurora, always carrying herself like royalty, barked directions while Willow fussed with the oven, cheeks flushed, hair perfectly arranged. She flashed a practiced smile. Colton, you're so sweet to come after work. Why don't you relax in the living room? Lucy'll get you something to drink. Lucy soon handed me a glass of iced tea, her eyes sharp as tacks. She and Aurora traded glances, almost as if they were running a silent playbook. Everyone gathered around Aurora's oversized table, the kind that demanded attention. She took her usual spot at the head, chin lifted. Let's share some highlights from our week, she announced. Willow, you go first, darling. Willow twirled her hair, her voice airy. I've been finalizing details on my new business venture. It was supposed to be a surprise, but I can't keep it to myself. It's going to bring in major revenue. She squeezed my arm. And I'm counting on my incredible husband to support me every step. I looked around the table, letting the moment hang. They all still saw me as the compliant spouse, a bank account with a pulse. None of them realized that every lie, every stolen dollar, every mocking word was already stacked in a neat pile in Miss Phillips's office, ready to blow up their plans in court. But that night wasn't just about the evidence. I needed them to see me, to realize the Colton they thought they knew was gone. Right then, the doorbell chimed. Before anyone else could react, I stood up. I'll get it. A courier waited outside, holding a stack of manila envelopes. I nodded my thanks and brought them back inside, each one clearly labeled with a name. My hands were steady, but my pulse pounded in my ears. Before dessert, I'd like to share something, I said, setting the envelopes by each plate. Aurora's eyes narrowed, voice icy. What is this, Colton? Go ahead, I replied, meeting her gaze. Open them. The rustle of paper filled the room as everyone tore into their envelope. Silence broke into gasps, sharp curses, and faces draining of color. Willow's jaw went slack. Lucy gripped the table's edge, her expression pure disbelief. Aurora's lips vanished into a thin, angry line. Even Grant's hands shook as he flipped through page after page. Inside those envelopes was everything. Bank statements showing tens of thousands missing, masked as renovation expenses, screenshots of the family-only group chat, each message dripping with mockery and scheming. Photos of Theo arriving at my door on weekdays, timestamps printed below, messages between Lucy and Willow plotting the divorce after my bonus hit, Aurora's emails, each line a blueprint for milking me dry. Lucy broke the silence, voice shaking. What the hell is this? Willow's eyes darted between the pages and me, panic blooming. Colton, why would you do this? This is private. Stealing from me was private, too. I answered, my voice calm in the stunned hush. So was cheating with my best friend. But you made all of it my business when you turned me into your punchline. Aurora slammed her palm on the table. You had no right. I locked eyes with her. You think you can rob me blind and ridicule me for years? Of course I had the right to collect evidence. And I did thoroughly. Across from me, Grant looked wrecked. Lucy, are these real? Did you use our accounts? You took a second mortgage on our house. Lucy's bravado fell away. Grant, please, it's not what you think. He cut her off, anger and confusion twisting his features. You funneled his money. My money, too. Lucy stared at me, eyes burning. You bastard, she whispered, voice thin with rage. You ruined everything. I shook my head, voice low. No, Lucy, you did that yourselves. I just made sure you didn't get away with it. Then, echoing down the hall, the doorbell rang again. For a moment, everything froze. My stomach flipped. The final player had arrived. Part 3. Truth be told, some part of me wasn't shocked to see him standing there. I hadn't invited Theo, but I'd almost expected it, like the final scene in a bad play. Willow jumped up from her chair, nervously running her hands down her dress. I'll get it, she blurted, and headed for the door, the whole family trailing after, tension thick in the air. When Willow swung the door open, Theo Ross stood on the porch, backlit by the streetlight. He looked rough, black leather jacket, hair wild, his face etched with worry and something close to defiance. Willow, I need to talk, he said softly, but his eyes flicked past her and landed on me. He faltered. Colton. His voice was loaded with old memories. Nights camping, dumb pranks, his toast as my best man. Now, every bit of that history just felt poisoned. My jaw locked. Why are you here, Theo? My words were quiet, but hard as stone. Theo looked for an ally. I wanted. To manipulate me some more? I shot back. Or just stroll into my home again when I'm not there? His face blanched. Willow piped up, her voice shaky. You two were pretty much separated. Don't. I barked. Don't lie. I have footage. You in my bedroom, while I was at work. Belle asking why mommy's friend keeps visiting. Theo's bravado crumbled. Colton, please, it's complicated. I cut him off, stepping forward, ignoring Willow and Aurora's shouts. There's nothing left to explain but betrayal. That's all you two have given me. The old Colton, the one who'd always walk away, make peace, swallow pain, was gone. When Theo put up his hands to placate me, I snapped. I shoved him, slamming him into the doorframe. The bang echoed. Lucy screamed. Aurora yelled for me to stop. I didn't. I grabbed Theo's jacket and punched him square in the jaw. Pain shot up my arm, but I hardly felt it. He staggered, and I landed another blow across his face, driving him back onto the porch. Colton, this is crazy, he choked. No, Theo, I snarled. This is justice. Did you ever think I'd just keep taking it? He reached for my arm, but I twisted away, kicked his knee. He went down, cursing. I stood over him, fists tight, chest heaving. Willow shrieked, stop. You're going to hurt him. I glared at her, voice shaking with anger. Funny, you never worried about me. Just him. Theo coughed, spit blood onto the porch. But the memories kept flashing. Him at every barbecue. All those inside jokes, laughing behind my back with Willow. It boiled over. I grabbed his collar, dragging him closer. You're finished. You hear me? Done. Before I could throw another punch, strong arms yanked me back. Grant, and maybe a neighbor, pulling me off. Enough, Colton. Grant gasped. He's not worth it. Theo clung to the porch rail, blood trickling down his chin, eyes wide and scared. Nobody had ever seen me like this, not even myself. Grant and the others wrestled me inside. My breath came in ragged bursts. Willow ran to Theo, hugging him tight. Aurora and Lucy hovered in the hall, faces pale. Aurora fumbled for her phone, threatening. I'm calling the police. I met her glare. Do it. Let's see what happens when they see all the evidence I've got. Fraud, theft, conspiracy. I'll walk out of the station a free man. You? Not so much. Aurora froze, phone drooping. Lucy collapsed into a chair, hands over her face. Willow knelt on the porch, sobbing over Theo's battered form. Inside, Grant's voice cracked. Lucy, did you really do it? Did you steal from Colton? Lucy's voice shook. Yes, Grant. But did you have to do this in front of everyone? I shook my head. Why should I go quietly? After everything you did? It was never just about money. You made me the punchline, the family joke. Well, what did you think would happen if your pushover finally pushed back? Nobody had an answer. Aurora stood silent, Lucy weeping, Willow dragging Theo to the sofa, his eyes fixed anywhere but at me. The room was thick with silence, the world they'd built crashing down all at once. Willow turned to me, tears streaking her cheeks, voice breaking. Colton. Part 4. I'm sorry, Willow whispered, barely able to meet my eyes. Her voice trembled as she tried to explain. I never meant for things to go this far. It just happened. Theo was around. And you. She broke off, swallowing. You were always so distant. I felt alone in the marriage. A cold laugh slipped out before I could stop it. Don't even try to put this on me, I said, my anger barely contained. Every time you needed money, I gave it. When you needed space or time, I gave that too. I gave you everything, Willow. And all the while, you mocked me behind my back. You planned this. For a split second, something raw sparked in her eyes. Fine. Yes, we mocked you, she snapped. You were too naive to see it. But you were never supposed to change. You weren't supposed to turn into this monster. Monster? I echoed, letting out a hollow, bitter laugh. You're the one who made me like this. You pushed me to the edge and left me there. What did you expect would happen? You threw me to the wolves, so I learned to bite back. Her hands balled into fists, voice breaking as she lashed out. You'll never get custody of Belle. No judge would give a violent father custody, a man who attacks people in front of his own daughter. No one will trust you. I let her words hang in the silence. Then, slowly, I pulled out my phone and brought up the messages between her and Aurora, evidence of them planning to provoke me, to frame me as violent for the divorce proceedings. I had the timestamps, the context, the recordings. On top of that, I had video, financial records, proof of every theft and betrayal. If you ever try to use Belle as a bargaining chip, I said quietly, my voice low but firm, I'll bury you in legal action. You're going to lose everything, Willow. Don't push me. For a moment, I saw something crack in her. The confidence gone, replaced by a deep, hollow fear. She finally understood that the man she thought was harmless now held all the cards. No one touched the dinner that night. The roast Aurora had prepared sat untouched as everyone scattered through the living room, the air thick with accusation and shock. Theo just stared at the floor, his jaw swollen, occasionally dabbing at his mouth. Lucy sobbed, head in her hands. Aurora's face was set in stone. After a long silence, Aurora finally spoke, her voice shaky but trying for control. Let's calm down. Colton, maybe we can reach an agreement. We're family. I shook my head. Not anymore. You ended that. There's no private settlement coming. You forced my hand. Grant stared at Lucy, pain all over his face. I can't believe you did this. You wrecked our lives for a scam. Lucy looked helpless, voice cracking. Mom said it was guaranteed. Willow told me you'd never even notice, Colton. She broke down in tears again. But I felt nothing for her tears. They weren't for the pain they'd caused, just for being caught. Aurora tried once more, rubbing her temples. There must be a way. We can make this right. Repay me with what? I demanded. Everything's gone. And don't try to apologize. I've heard enough lies. Her lips pressed together, but I cut her off. Here's what's happening. Divorce papers are filed. You'll be served soon. My only priority now is Belle. As for the fraud and theft, that's a criminal case. My attorney is preparing everything. And your little group chat will be front and center. Especially the parts where you forged my signature, plotted to drain my accounts, and mocked me. Aurora's cheeks flushed with shame and anger. You'd send Belle's mother to prison? You're heartless. She made those choices. I replied coldly. Maybe you can cut a plea with the prosecutors. Good luck. Lucy looked at me desperately. What about me? I turned to Grant. If you want the truth, I'll connect you with my lawyer. You deserve to know what really happened. Grant nodded numbly, devastated. Lucy seemed to shrink, finally realizing what she'd become. For a second, I pitied Grant, married into this web, just like I once was. Theo managed to stand, still leaning on Willow. He tried to speak, his voice strained. Colton, He had nothing left to say. There was no fixing this. I turned away. I looked at Aurora, voice deadly calm. Don't call me. Don't use Belle against me. If you try to manipulate her, I'll have the police at your door. Understood? Aurora nodded, fear in her eyes. Yes. Then I turned to Willow. Her tears were gone, her face empty and exhausted. Pack your things and leave my house, I told her quietly. Stay with your mother, or stay with him, I don't care. But you're not coming back unless it's for visitation or with an officer. Your life as you knew it is over. She didn't argue. She just nodded, broken. Within days, Miss Phillips filed restraining orders, custody motions, lawsuits for fraud and theft. Grant worked with us, uncovering even more accounts and schemes. The net closed in. Theo called me once. I let it go to voicemail. I know I messed up, man. But we can't let it end like this. We've been friends since. Part 5. I never replied to Theo's voicemail. I just deleted it and moved on. Some betrayals are permanent. They burn too deep to ever really heal. Word spread like wildfire. Aurora, Willow's mother, soon found herself under investigation for years of financial schemes. They dug up evidence she'd forged signatures, scammed banks for lines of credit, and quietly manipulated accounts that didn't belong to her. Lucy's breakdown escalated when Grant, sick of lies, froze their bank accounts and hired his own lawyer. Their luxurious life evaporated overnight. Trips canceled, credit cards denied, every fragile status symbol stripped away. As for Theo, his world crumbled, too. His wife, Naomi, learned the truth. She'd always sensed something, but never dreamed I'd be the one to expose it. Naomi filed for divorce and left with their kids, making sure everyone in our circle knew why. She called mutual friends, shared the screenshots, and didn't bother protecting Theo's reputation. Within weeks, my once quiet suburb became a storm of lawsuits, property disputes, and whispered phone calls. Even as hush money offers appeared, Miss Phillips shut everyone down, pushing for the maximum. Let them squirm, she told me. You'll end up with more than you ever expected. But money was never my endgame. Belle was. I demanded primary custody, laying out Willow's long record of manipulation and fraud. When the judge saw the evidence, texts, screenshots, bank records, video, the decision was quick. Sole custody, pending review. Willow was granted supervised visits only. The judge didn't trust her not to manipulate or take Belle. It was extreme, but her willingness to use our daughter as leverage left no other option. The months crawled by. I found a smaller house in a modest neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but it felt real. Belle chose the color for her new room and filled the walls with drawings. I signed her up for after-school art classes and did my best to build something stable. Our routines were simple but honest. She laughed again, and for the first time in years, I saw her really smile. Willow tried to reinvent herself as the victim. She painted me as violent, unfit, a monster. But in court, Miss Phillips dismantled her story. The judge saw the truth in the endless chain of messages. How Willow and Aurora had plotted to provoke me, joked about framing me for an outburst. The evidence of her infidelity and theft destroyed any hope she had of winning sympathy. Meanwhile, criminal charges loomed over Willow, Lucy, and Aurora. The authorities closed in. I prepared to testify, determined to finish what they started. If it meant seeing justice done, I was ready. One night after a hearing, Willow stopped me in the courthouse hall. Her makeup was smeared, hair a mess, eyes hollow. "Colton," she whispered, "I'm sorry. I know I've done terrible things. I don't want to lose Belle. I never meant." "Stop," I interrupted, cutting through her excuses. "I'm not the man you used to manipulate. You made your choices. Now you deal with the fallout." Tears streamed down her cheeks. Once I would have consoled her. I might have apologized for her pain. Not anymore. I thought of how she'd forced Belle to lie, how she schemed to bleed me dry. My pity was gone. "You started this," I said, my voice flat. "Live with it." I walked away, not looking back. A week later, I bumped into Theo outside a diner. He looked worn down, a faint scar still visible on his cheek from that night. He seemed older, smaller, as if everything had been squeezed out of him. "Colton," he said, voice thin, "I just want to say I'm sorry. I lost everything. Naomi, the kids, my job. I was drunk, or stupid, or both. Willow needed someone, and I closed my car door and stepped up close." He flinched. "You took advantage," I said, voice low. "And it wasn't just one bad night. You lied for months. Don't come to me for pity now that your world's falling apart." Shame washed over him. He swallowed, his voice barely a whisper. I can't undo it. But we were friends so long. If you can ever forgive. I let out a bitter laugh. I gave you my trust, Theo. You spit on it. You want forgiveness now that you're alone? Not from me. Tears welled in his eyes as he nodded, accepting the verdict. I get it, he said, barely above a whisper. I won't bother you again. As he turned to leave, desperation flared. He grabbed my sleeve. If you see Naomi, please tell her I'm sorry. I shook off his hand. That's your burden. If you want redemption, earn it yourself. Don't look to me. He walked away, shoulders hunched, a broken figure of the arrogant friend I'd known. Maybe, under all that hurt, there was a trace of sadness in me for what we'd lost. But he'd shattered that bond, and I let him go without another word. A few months later, the divorce was finalized. I received most of our marital assets, along with a lump sum from the forced sale of our old home. Some money had to be dragged back through lawsuits, but I got what mattered. Willow, Lucy, and Aurora faced criminal charges. Plea bargains were being worked out. Belle thrived. She started at a new school, dove into new activities, and finally had a dad who was present in every sense of the word. Our life wasn't perfect, but it was honest. And after everything I'd lost, that was more than enough. The end.